Hey everyone, in this video of Tableau Explained, we're going to take a look at filters. We're going to understand what each of these filters mean and how the order of operation looks like. First, we have extract filter. To understand what extract filter is, let's quickly go through the data source connection. So when I've connected the data source, you'll see that there is an option here where it states that there is the live connection or the extract connection. So under the extract connection is where we can set our extract filters. And over here, we can specify how much of the data we want to extract. So what the extract filter does is, as its name is to basically filter the amount of data we want to store in our extract. We can think of this like an SQL query where we are putting a where condition to query the data that we want. Now let's go to our next filter, which is the data source filter. And as the name suggests, it is the filter on the data source. So over here, we can see that we have a option here that shows filter, and we have the option to add our filters. So let's take a look at how this filter works. Let's go to our sheet over here and we will pull out category. And over here, we can see that in our data source, we have these three categories: the furniture, the office supplies, and the technology. And now let's go back to our data source and add our filters and take a look at what this does. So now, for example, I just want to do a filter on furniture. And now let's take a look at what happened to our data. So over here, we can see that we only have furniture in our data source. Now let's undo this filter and to show you another example of how to illustrate this data source filter better. Okay, now that I have my data source filter removed, we can see that we have all our data here again, where we can see all these three categories over here. So when we look at this sheet over here, one of the obvious way to perform filter is to just drag our dimension into the filter mark over here, and we can do our filter over here. And this will give us the filtered data on our sheet. And when we right click on this and apply to all sheet, we have this option to apply to all using this data source. So how is this different from a data source filter? Do not be confused with this. This is actually a dimension filter, which we will go through later on. The difference with this is that when we apply filter in this manner, we will see the filter appearing in this marks card over here. And now if we go on to the data source filter and we do the filter over here instead, we will see that this data is still filtered, but we don't see any filter marks card over here. So why would we want to do it in this manner? A data source filter is very useful if we want to apply row level security. So what does that mean? Oftentimes we will need to restrict our data access. So say for example, in this set of data, we have 4 regions over here. And say for example, the manager of the West region should only have access to the West region data. We will want to set a user access control to this. And this can be done through the data source filter. We won't go through in detail how this is done, but just to give an idea of why data source filter is used is because we do not want the filter mark to show over here. And this access on the data source filter should only be given to the data source administrator, where they will have access to control this filter, and not the users who are actually using or editing the dashboard. And the users using this dashboard will not have visibility to the filters. So the next filter we have is the context filter. We're going to drag our region to the filter over here, and let's just select only central. So when we right click on this, we will see that there is an option to add to context. And when we do that, you will see that this will be grayed out. Now we are going to start understanding what does the order of operation mean in Tableau. So when we go down this list, the one at the top of the list will override the filters that goes down the list. So this is important to understand because when we perform specific calculation, especially those that involve level of detail, it is very important to understand this order of operation and how using certain filters will affect our calculation. You can see an example of that in one of my previous videos where I discuss about how we can fix a situation where we are seeing an incorrect ranking. Besides that, there is also another use of why we want to use a context filter. One of the reasons is to improve performance. Because when we use a context filter, the amount of the loaded data is smaller, and when we open up the page, it responds faster. However, there is a disadvantage of using this. When we actually want to change the value of our filter, it actually becomes slower, because when we change the value, it can be seen as we need to reload the entire data again. So it is only recommended to use a context filter when we know that this particular filter does not require frequent changes. The next two filters down the list are the dimension and measure filters. We know what dimension and measures are. We have been using them. So here we have our dimension, which is the product name. Let's first use all of them. And let's drop this into our view. And we also want to look at our measure, which is the sales. First, let's perform a dimension filter. We're going to edit filter. We select from our list, and we will select some of these 3M products over here. After we have done the filter, we will see that what remains in the table is what we have performed in our dimension filter over here. Now let's add in our measure filter. So let me bring in sales, and let's say I want to filter the sum where it is, say, more than 150. So I should only see these 3 rows remaining. The hangers and the organizers will no longer be there. So let's click on this, and yes, we get our expected result over here. This is straightforward to understand. With this, we have a and conditional filter. So now we still have not seen how this order of operation comes into play. The order of operation is more significant when we are performing calculation. So if we take a look at this table of order of operation, we will see that there is in between this list of filter. We will see things like the fixed LOD, include, exclude LOD. We will not go through in detail what this means. These are the level of details. And when we perform calculation, including this level of details, it becomes more important for us to understand what this order of operation is. So to demonstrate a quick example of the calculation can be affected by the order of operation, we'll take a look at the last filter on this list, which is the table calculation filter. So what we're going to do here is that we are going to create a table of calculation. We're going to right click on the sum of sales, go to quick table calculation, and select on rank. So now we have computed our rank based on the sum of sales. Okay, so now let's format this table better so that we can understand what's going on. So let me put this here so I can have the correct order. And let me add back the sales. Let's ignore this one for now. Okay, we have a table calculation placed in our table here. So polarizing task lamp is rank 1, air cleaner is rank 2, and the light filter is rank 3. Now let's change our dimension filter. Okay, first let's remove our measure filter over here, and we're going to change our dimension filter and include some of the other products as well. Now, we can see that those 3M products are no longer in rank 1, 2, or 3. We have other products replacing the associated number previously.
Task lamp is no longer rank 1, we have system cube printer, and air cleaner is no longer rank 2, we have cubic foot counter.
So with this example, we can understand the order of operation. The dimension filter comes first. Then it goes down to finally how we compute this table calculation. So the calculation is only performed after the dimension filter. So this is what we mean by the order of operation.